Hey, and good morning, everybody. Good to have you back here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel as we get ready to dive into the weather report here on your August the 27th, 2025. Hope you guys having a great day out there. Ready to get your day rolling here with your no nonsense weather report here. Again, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the unusually cool weather in the east, the monsoonal moisture, and all the heavy rains out in the west. And still a little hot, still a little bit of heat up in the northwest, but not quite as bad as what it was last couple of days. So we're going to talk about that. Tropics, we'll give you an update on that as well. Now, before we kind of roll into all this new report, if you're coming into this after the broadcast, if you could please help a brother out here a little bit, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you can. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. As always, if you have a weather-related question, please post it down below and give me a thumbs up if you appreciate the report. Again, I do appreciate your help here on the channel. We're a no-nonsense channel. We don't like hyping things to death. We just want to give you the facts and keep you prepared and not scared. That's what we do here. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at the surface map as we're looking at this very, very nice air mass here across the east. Very nice. Have temperatures down here, like, for example, where I'm at, North Georgia, well down in the 50s, even some 40s up in the mountains this morning. So it was definitely very, very cool out there. We're going to see some of this moisture kind of traverse out of the plains and kind of charge for the southeast. We'll break that down with the model data. Look at all this heavy rain up here into Idaho and into Montana, and into areas of Wyoming and Utah. You see some of the flash flood warnings down there across New Mexico and across areas of Utah as well out there for today. So again, it's going to continue to stay pretty wet out there. We've also got a tropical influence. I'll show you that may work its way up into parts of the southwest as well as we go into the next few days. So very, very kind of active. We're definitely seeing the transition. We're making a very progressive and kind of crazy weather pattern. Let's see if we get this to come back up here again. There we go. Yesterday's extremes. We had 105 out in Death Valley. That was our warm spot. So that's a substantially cool down from what we've seen in previous days. And then our cold spot it's actually in Michigan. Big Bay, Michigan was 30 degrees. So a little different location now. You kind of see we're making that transition. You know, it's a little early to seeing this. I've been seeing a lot of news about birds migrating a little bit earlier ahead of schedule. Not only, I think, as a response to the cool down, it could be an indication of, the animals kind of feeling that, maybe the fall's going to be a little more cooler and a little more active than what we've seen in years past. We'll see. We'll see. Definitely looking a little busy out there. Let's look at some of this rain here across Oklahoma. Getting some pretty decent rains across the Panhandle right now out there. A little bit of thunder out there. It's been decreasing a little bit here in intensity, but seeing some of that rain out there. And Oklahoma's had a ton of rain out there over the last few days. Watches and warnings, you can see where all that heavy rain out in the west, Idaho, Oregon, heading back to Northern California, Nevada, seeing some flash flood warnings up that way. Notice we don't have any of the heat advisories up here. It's still warm, but not quite the heat advisory criteria across the northwest. So we're backing the heat off just a little bit there. So that's a little bit better than what we've seen here in the previous days. Most of the country looking pretty quiet there for right now. All right, so let's look at the tropics real quick. I'll give you a quick update out there. We still got Ferdinand out there, and it's continuing to move away out in there in the open Atlantic. There's the projection right there. Top winds at 45 miles per hour, not a big deal. That'll continue to move up there and eventually move up into Europe as a non-tropical low at that point. All right, let's look out in the Atlantic right now. We're still seeing a lot of the Saharan dust out here. Very unusual seeing all this stuff still sitting out there. So again, that's going to be a bit of an inhibitor. Now, the outlook going out for the second, passing around the 10th and the 16th, the new hazards outlook was kind of lighting up this area to see the pressure starting to fall again, and maybe we start seeing a little more activity out there toward around the peak of the hurricane season going in to the second half of September. We'll see. You would think, climatologically speaking, that's what we typically see. Here's Ferdinand up here, but notice the rest of the tropics. It's pretty quiet. Gulf of Mexico, quiet right now. So not going to complain about that. It means no problems for the Labor Day weekend for anybody going to the coastal areas out there. Pacific side, we got a little bit. We got Juliet up here. This moisture here is going to work its way up into Southern California. So that's something to watch there on that. We got a couple areas of disturbed weather we're going to watch out there. This one here is about 30% on this one. This one south of Hawaii is also about 30%. And this one, which are probably behind Juliet, I didn't look up the next named storm, but that one's 50%. Probably get another tropical storm out of that one in the next few days on that one. All right, so let's look at the Juliet's path. This is going to move up to depression on Friday. Eventually, the long-range models are taking that moisture and kind of streaming it up towards Southern California with the very active monsoonal flow. We don't just an additional moisture there to cause some problems up there across the west. That'll be a bit of a problem. All right, let's go take a look at the big picture model here across the Atlantic. Again, we're saying goodbye to Ferdinand. It gets on out of here. It stays quiet here for the most part. Here, going into this upcoming weekend. It isn't until early next week we start seeing some sort of activity here coming off the coast here, and where it goes from there, we'll see. Again, there's our high pressure up here, the Bermuda High, but that weakness has been sitting right here off the East Coast, and the pattern I'm seeing right now across the country, that's going to be a bit of a buffer. So anything that comes out, because that ridge is kind of weak and off to the east like it is, will curve north. The only opportunity we're going to get any tropical is if we get something that kind of sneaks into the Gulf and does this kind of path, I think. Because if it gets north of the islands, it's going to make a turn. That's just the way the current pattern is looking. Now we'll see if it continues going into later in the month of September. But right now, that's what I'm expecting in those areas. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the hazards across the country. I'm not going to do the severe thunderstorm because it's really not a big issue. It's the excessive rainfall that's the big problem right now. We got some flooding issues, or several flooding issues out in the west yesterday. We're going to do it again today, folks. Out here, Idaho, we're seeing that up in there. You got the flash flood watches out there. We got a complex of storms that are going to come in, some heavy rains here out of Colorado that expect to drop down into Kansas, Oklahoma, and into Missouri and Arkansas. So that is for today. That's your excessive rainfall forecast here on your Wednesday. This is for Thursday. We kind of shift this a little bit further to the east here across areas of Arkansas and into Mississippi. See that up here into Colorado as well. But again, a lot of the west, because all that monsoon moisture is just kind of sitting there, daytime heating. We're going to fire some thunderstorms and some heavy rains there. Day 3, here we go. Kind of moving out into plains here a little bit. You can see that up in there and dropping down into areas of Texas and here across the southeast, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, over the Carolina coast. That'll go into your Friday. So looks like we may start with some wet weather across the south on Friday. I think the weekend weather across the southeast starts to improve going into Sunday and Monday, going into next week. All right, let's go take a look quickly up at the thunderstorm threat for today. Again, just a general threat across most of the country. Even though you have a general threat, you can still have warnings. We had several of them yesterday that were issued out, and most of the country was just a general thunderstorm threat. You can still get isolated pockets of severe weather. Oh, I'm still on the wrong day. Here you go. It looks so much like, but here's your day 1. So there you go. Got the red flag warnings out here across Washington, but again, not going to see any big changes. There's day 2 has got a little pocket here across Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, parts of North Texas there. A little complex of storms is going to roll down this way, but they're across the Great Lakes. But that's about it. You see all 3 days, not really seeing any organized severe weather out there for like slider enhanced, something like that. I will say this much: if this weather pattern that's kind of evolving becomes a little more, stays as progressive as it is, when we get deeper into the fall season, fall sometimes referred to as that secondary severe weather season. I tell you, if this pattern continues deeper into the fall, we may have some active severe weather later. I'm just gonna keep that in the back of your head as we go deeper into September and make that transition into the fall season officially on September the 22nd. I know meteorological fall begins September 1st, but the actual date is September 22nd. That's when the sun crosses the equator, starts heading south. All right, let's go ahead and talk about our models here. We're going to look at our intermediate model here first. We're looking at the NAM model. Get into that one right here. Again, we're going to be watching the big news story. Again, you got the heavy rains out in the west. You got some rains up here into the northeast with a little cool down. So we're going to continue to see the weather being kind of wet and rainy with the flooding conditions here. There's going to be a complex of storms that are going to break free out of Colorado and coming through Kansas. This is going to come down south. This is that heavy rain pocket we were discussing there. Maybe some pockets of severe weather coming across Arkansas. And a little bit of this moisture comes in across the southwest. Here's a little bit of that moisture coming up here. I think our tropical moisture might get caught up into California here toward the end of the week. So something to watch as it gets closer for the north toward the end of the week. All right, but wet in the northwest, wet here across New England, obviously with that reinforcing shot of cool air coming down here. The Great Lakes are going to stay cool, and looks like below normal temperatures. They're going to stick around here for a while, going deeper in the month of September. Goes back to what I was saying last week when I saw that outlook for September. I was like, I don't know if it's going to stay warm like that. All right, here's your rain. Obviously, you got pockets of heavy rain out here in the west. We got rain here across with that frontal boundary coming into the northeast, seeing the rain there. But the big bullseye, you can't help but be drawn to this. This is a 60-hour total. This is going out 60 hours. So we're talking about areas from Kansas, Oklahoma, into Arkansas, getting to Mississippi, Alabama. And I mean, look at these. They're 8-inch totals, 7-inch totals. We're looking at some pretty good pockets and some very heavy rain here across Kansas into Arkansas. Arkansas, there's a 10-inch right there. So again, we got to watch this closely. Flooding could be a problem as the summer of flood continues here across a big portion of the country. And then we'll track and see where it goes from there. The European model is doing something really kind of crazy with this rain going to the southeast. I'm not exactly sure I'm buying it yet. I'll show you here just a second on there. But one thing that we're going to see is the summer heat, as far as how it's set up across the country, I think is pretty much dead, except for the extreme south. We're talking from, Southern California, maybe the interior sections there, Arizona over to Texas, the Gulf Coast down to Florida. I just don't know. We may get pockets of days, and I do mean days, like across the plains out ahead of there's another cold front coming down next week, that we may see brief warm-ups in the middle of the country, but they're not going to last very long. Like I said, we're getting into a very progressive-looking pattern here across the country, which means you're going to get some fluctuation. It's just a little early to be seeing this. That's my take from this, is we're kind of getting into a little early to be kind of seeing this kind of pattern. So this is the European, and boy, this thing does something really crazy here. I want to slow this down here going into next week. So Monday, you got this troughiness down here across the southeast, kind of keeping us unsettled here. There's the trough across the east, right? It pulls on out, and look at this big dump toward the end of next week. I mean, really fires up a big storm here across the Great Lakes, and a real big dump. I mean, this is unusual to see something like this. I mean, big ridge out here in the west, going all the way down here. I mean, wow. I mean, that would be an unusually cool cold snap coming on down here going into the end of next week. This is going toward Friday. I think both models are showing some sort of cool down, but the Europeans really going crazy with this thing coming on down here. And again, you see there's one that one lifts out. Then we get another one that takes its place right behind it. So the heat continues out in the west, but a very, very progressive pattern. Unusual to see, as we're not even out of August yet. Going into September, we're already have it right now. This going into September, this looks like this is going to continue and just get a little bit worse. So again, a little early, the fact that we're not officially into the fall here just yet. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the next 7 days here. I do want to point out the southeast is looking a little wet here going into Saturday. Where I defer with the European here a little bit is it really kind of lingers this rain into Sunday and Monday, keeping it kind of wet. I don't know if I'm buying that just yet, because it wasn't there on yesterday's run when I was looking at that. So I don't know if I'm buying that. So I'll look at the model run this afternoon. We'll see if that will go with that. But it is keeping it unsettled and wet pretty much all across the southeast here, right through Labor Day weekend. I'm not sure if I'm buying that. So it's kind of looks like an inverted trough hanging back there as we're getting some low that kind of fills up here. And here comes the cold dump. Boom. There's our cold front right there. This is going toward Wednesday of next week. And I'm going out beyond the 7 day just because I'm seeing there's another cool shot here coming down here toward the end of next week. So again, question marks on the southeast. The northeast is looking pretty good. I mean, after that front clears, it's not looking bad. Middle of the country not looking bad. But I'll tell you this much: if we get this kind of cool dump here coming into Tuesday, Wednesday, you're probably going to see a big warm up there in the middle of the country on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then this cool down is going to come right on down. And it clears coming on in here to the southeast. Boom, a nice cool down going into the following weekend. So that's what we're tracking right now. Monsoonal moisture continuing there across the west, although it does back off. Looks like the next 10 days, that very wet weather there that's going on right now across the northwest, that does let up. So that's good news there going in next week. But again, my question mark is going to be for the southeast forecast. That's the one I'm going to be watching closely. Obviously, that's where I live, but that's where we'll see what happens with that. Inverted trough setting up like that, it's kind of unusual to see. It doesn't happen very often. All right, so because of that fact, here's the rainfall totals. Obviously, we got this rain we're kind of see here across the plains, very active out in the west. Because of the fact I'm not buying that inverted trough point, this rainfall totals across Georgia, Alabama, I'm not buying it yet. I'm not buying that yet. We'll see what happens going into tomorrow. Again, I look for model continuity or consistency. If it shows up again tomorrow, and I do prefer the European, we'll see what happens there. But again, not looking too bad across the northeast, west coast looking good, looking dry out there toward the northwest as well. All right, let's talk about the temperatures here as we're going to go into next week here. Oop, I put it on the wrong day. Let's go back this up here, and we're going to start from Friday. All right, so we're going to look at Friday afternoon here. So we still got the heat here across the south, and Warmer out here in the plains, but really not bad. It's still warm out here in the northwest. Definitely cool up here in the northeast, 64s and 60s, looking very nice out here. All right, so let's go take this through the Labor Day weekend. Let's focus on that. All right, so let's go out to your Saturday afternoon here. And again, you get the heat here across the extreme south. We've got a little warm up here. Still seeing some upper 80s here across Missouri and into Kentucky area here as we go through the weekend. And then we'll see what happens here. The big difference, this is the American GFS model, so I'm going with this one because I'm disagreeing with the excessive rain across the southeast really throws the temperatures off here. Upper 70s, 80s, here's a few 90s in here. Get pockets, but excessive heat, we're just not seeing it. That's why I said I've been kind of declaring the excessive heat this summer is done. Not to say we're not gonna have some warm days, you'll get that, but I think the excessive heat days are pretty much done. Then going here to your afternoon, you're seeing temperatures here warming up again. Remember, we're going to be tracking that other cold front coming in Tuesday, Wednesday. So I do expect a heat warm up here in the plains. I do expect you'll get some 90s in here out ahead of that next front. And then we got this big cool down coming in behind that one. All right, so we'll watch that closely next week. So the plains next week could have a brief warm up here. As you can see, there it is right there, showing up on Tuesday. I don't know if it'll be quite 100 degrees or not. Again, we're getting kind of late for that. But one thing's for certain, once this cold front comes on down, it's going to beat the crap out of that, and we'll see things begin to improve here. Here comes that cool air. You kind of see it there. There it is, kind of taking this all the way out, just so you can kind of see that big front coming on down. So you can clearly see that front being back that cool air going toward the end of next week, and then it really kind of shrinks that. You see the purple, it's gone by the time we get into next week. So we got another cold shot coming down, and that'll definitely cool things off at that point. So let's get your climate outlook here. We'll wrap things up looking quickly here as we're looking out here for the end of the month and going into September. All right, so here is your 6 to 10 day outlook. This is going from the 1st to the 5th. Obviously, you're seeing a big part of the country here going with below normal temperatures out here, except for the west. It's still looking hot out here with that pattern continuing there. And then going out to the 8th to the 14th, again, big part of the country. Again, we got that big cool down coming down here that the Europeans hitting at. Still hot out here in the west and maybe down here in Florida as well. But basically, we're going right into the month of September, taking us out through the 9th, where it looks like we're going to see below normal temperatures again. I go back to the Climate Prediction Center, had almost the whole country for the month of September looking at above normal temperatures, and we're going to be 10 days in, a third of the way in, and we're not seeing that. So looks like that's not going to come to fruition there. Oh, I forgot. Got to take a look at your precipitation outlook. That's going to stay elevated a little bit here as well. Look how much of the country's got above normal precipitation, except for a little pocket up here across the Pacific Northwest, but a big part of the country looking wet there. Again, going from the 1st to the 5th, and then going out beyond that, the 3rd to the 9th, again, see a lot of the country with above normal precipitation, especially across Texas. We'll have to watch the flooding concerns there going a little bit later, going in from the 3rd through the 9th. So that is our outlook right now. Again, I'm telling you folks, I'm really, this pattern is very unusual in the sense of how progressive it is. It's early. I saw some stories about the birds migrating early. That could be an indication of, some early cool shots come down. The animals tend to sense that stuff a little bit better than we do. And it looks like we're in store for a fairly active fall. I'm really going to be, if this kind of weather pattern goes into October typically is a quiet month too. So typically, but if this kind of progressive pattern goes into like November, then I'm definitely going to be worried about that secondary severe weather season, the way things are looking. So anyway, who we got out there for this morning? We got Mick watching from Arkansas. Good to see you there. Edith Roberts, good to see you as well out there this morning. Again, I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm going to have to probably, the algorithm has dropped this program again. So I'm going to have to try to see what I can do from a thumbnail aspect and everything else to try to get it going. We were bleeding off followers and stuff. So I'm going to have to re-look at this. I still want to do this program. I like doing it every day. Good weather product, but I might have to look at how it is packaged as far as like the thumbnail and stuff like that, the analytics, because the algorithm is really treating the weather report pretty poorly right now. Away it goes. All right, you guys take it easy. I appreciate you guys checking us out. Y'all be good, stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow on the next edition. You guys have a great, safe day. Ready for Labor Day. I got to pick up my daughter today. She's coming in from Los Angeles, so